Hi, it's Darren from SimNation. A bunch of you have asked me to do a video about long passing when it comes to a quarterback that does not have accuracy. And of course, this is in relation to Draft Day Sports College Football 2023, which is a Wolverine Studios title. And the league that I'm showing you right now is SimNation's Draft Day Sports College Football League, which is SNCFL. If you want to join us, we have a lot of good teams still open. We'd love to have you. We have a great coaching community. They post frequently on Slack, and there's some really good coaches in this league. But back to the kind of the topic. So, if you remember the last video I did, I talked a little bit about what determines your quarterback's ability to complete passes. So short to medium is largely driven by accuracy more so than anything else and intelligence, whereas medium to long passing really is determined by arm. So in intelligence, in skill, right? Uh, but you can't just look at the quarterback. You got to also look at the people supporting the quarterback, like the wide receivers and tight ends. They need to have hands and agility. If you're playing long passing, they need to have speed. Um, a lot of long passing is straight north south. There are some that are different where, like, if you have flies, the guy will cut slightly to the left or slightly to the right, or they'll cut in and do an long in route. So that's where agility would show up. We'll talk a little bit later about flies versus streaks versus posts. But I think the key factor is I'm showing you Texas Tech because for those of you familiar is I beat West Virginia, but I lost Hargrove. Hargrove was my best quarterback. The whole offense was structured around a short to medium passing attack. It was having a lot of success. Hargrove was off to a really good start. Texas Tech, which is a pretty shitty team, by the way, is was off to a 4-0 start, had knocked off Frankie in Oklahoma State, knocked off Mike at West Virginia, and everything was looking good. And then they lost Hargrove midway through the game against West Virginia. The backup Doris came in, who is I'll show you in a second, is a quarterback with an arm. And they managed to hold on largely because they built up a really big lead and the defense held tight. And then I made some modifications. I brought in a different quarterback named Melton. I think it was Melton that I brought in. Yeah, who on paper should have been a comparable quarterback to Hargrove. And as you can see, I just got shelled. Now, a lot of you look at the score and say, well, man, your defense sucked. No, my defense didn't suck. My defense actually was pretty decent in this game, but you can't do much when your quarterback throws two pick sixes. You are constantly turning the ball over on offense. Because if you look at this, I had 6 turnovers, 3 by interception, 2 of which were returned for a touchdown. They also returned a punt for a touchdown. So if you think about that alone, right? And by the way, they scored on every single time I turned the ball over. So that's 42 points plus the punt. That's 49 points out of the 72. So my defense actually did a pretty decent job of trying to hold them. But when you're on the field for over 35 minutes, you're just not going to be able to do it. And they were constantly getting great field position because Melton just was horrible. The whole offense really was horrible, by the way. It wasn't just him. But as you can see, if you go downhill, is they tried their best, they couldn't hold. So I can't have a repeat of that. Texas Tech, the dream of making the playoffs gone. There's no way they're going to make the playoffs now. So what I need to do is try to salvage making a bowl game with a winning record, as opposed to last season where I made a bowl game with a 4-8 record. So how am I going to do that? Well, if we look at the stats real quick, I'll just show this to you. Is Hargrave really decent quarterback, 62%. He's perfect for the short to medium passing attack, and I'll show you his stats in a second why. Neither Melton should have been okay with it, but his lack of intelligence, I think, drove this the way it was. Doris is not a guy built for the short to medium passing attack. He's built for the medium to long. So I intend to start him this week. I'm gonna need to change my offense to meet him. And let me show you what that actually looks like. So if we go to roster, um, one of the things that you're gonna notice right off the bat is Doris has a 91 arm. He's got the best arm on my roster. None of my guys outside of Hargrave are really what I would call intelligence. And I started Melton because of the 70 and the 83. I thought he'd be good. Plus, he was built to be able to run the ball if I wanted to. And there were parts of my offense that run the ball. I could start Hoskins, but I worry about him just in general. Yes, he's got decent speed, but that 57 skill worries me. And honestly, part of the issue was the 31 skill for Melton. Doris has 70, so in theory, he could be better, but I got to change my whole offense to meet him. Because short to medium is not going to work for Doris. He doesn't have accuracy. 57 is a horrible accuracy, which means he's really not going to complete any short to medium passes. And we saw that with the 6 of 21, right? But if I put him in a medium to long passing attack, I think that changes, and I think he completes close to 55 to 65% of his passes because he has a 91 arm. He does have serviceable intelligence. The skill is right on the bottom of being a decent quarterback, but 70 is manageable. But the key also is because I'm changing my passing, what my passing priority is, it means I might also have to change my wide receivers. So what you're seeing here, I've already done some of this work because I don't think you guys want to watch me moving people around. But I am going to start Doris. I'm going to put Hoskins in at second because he has probably the next strongest arm behind Doris with 85, which means he's right on the cusp of being able to make medium to long passes. Generally speaking, my rule of thumb is if it's 85 or higher, they can run this type of offense. You traditionally want a 90 in arm for long passing quarterbacks, and you traditionally want to have at least an 80 in intelligence. Now, I don't have that. I just have the arm, so I'm gonna have to try to make that work. Um, if they're below 85, I would tell you, and especially if they have accuracy in the 70s, I would say that you should run that quarterback in a short to medium passing game because one, any arm less than 85, they're not really going to be able to make the long passes with any degree of accuracy. Whereas accuracy in the 70s, you can traditionally get a quarterback who will complete at least 58%, maybe higher, of the short to medium passes, and it just works out better in that. Intelligence does influence all this, by the way. So you do want to have an intelligent quarterback. Skill also does it because that's about how they can make their reads and also understand the position. As you can see, I don't have anyone who really has great skill. Hargrove had it. He's decent. So I can't do the short to medium passing really well because none of these quarterbacks are really good at it. So I'm going to go with what I've got, which is Doris, and I got to hope he doesn't get hurt. Otherwise, Hoskins is going to be running this offense. But the other thing is, I do need to change up my wide receivers. So traditionally, and I've already made this change, is traditionally this would be Don Ochoa uh, in a short to medium 79, 83, 87. That's good for wide receiver one because a lot of the things he's going to be doing are like bubble screens, reads, call-ins, and things like that, where it matters more about agility than speed. But now I'm going to be doing long passing, so it doesn't make sense to have Ochoa in because he's not fast enough to get breakaway. So I'm bringing in Tribble because he's 89 and 93. The reality is I could play Wyatt Thurman here um, because he's fast. He's as fast with a higher agility. But I'm going to have Tribble. I have Mets at number two because a lot of this is going to be straight north-south running. And his 91 is going to matter. Though, sure, a lot of it is a lot of north-south, but also a little bit of agility needs to be there. So he's got the agility, whereas Mets doesn't. And then for the times I'm going to be in spread, I have Wyatt Thurman coming in because a lot of his passes aren't going to be going downfield. They're going to be more in the short to medium range as opposed to the medium to long. So these two definitely medium to long. This one kind of starting to skirt the boundary of short to medium, but still a lot of medium to long. This one is really short to medium. My tight ends need to be faster. That sounds wrong, but uh, so I have Bonilla who will get the start. Normally, I have someone else who's a better run blocker, but I'm gonna have to go in with some of this, and then of course Kennedy starts second because he's got the speed. Hands 61's not great, but for a tight end, it's okay. He's also got good agility, so that'll influence it. Normally, I would try Mott, but I'm gonna have to throw a lot of tight end deep out, which means that I need someone who's fast. An 88 speed in a tight end is going to obliterate most linebackers. I didn't change my line. Running backs, I don't need to change much here because again, I am going to run the ball quite a bit because I'm going to try to keep from passing all the time. So I'm a mirror an offense that I used at Maryland in the past when I had similar quarterbacks who had great arms but maybe not as accurate. Well, I'm going to run the ball probably 60% of the time, pass the ball probably 40. But when I do pass, I'm going to pass medium to long, which means medium, balanced, and long plays only. And I'll show you what that looks like. But that's kind of how I'm determining what people are going to do. When I go to strategy, I'm not playing a human this week, so I'm okay showing this to you. I've created a playbook called Doris Quarterback. Like I said, on a lot of plays, I'm going to run the ball more. Some plays I'm going to pass it, but I'm not going to really go all in on the passing this week because I don't believe I have a quarterback that can do it. Game planning, I need to fix that. This really should be, I'm going to aim at Shannon a lot. I'm sorry, not Shannon, wrong guy. Sure. So I'm going to stay conservative, which means I'm not going to go for it a lot. I'm going to throw the ball, but I'm going to keep it slow. I'm going to put my passing preference at none because I want it. I want to be able to use all three plays: the medium, the balanced, and the long plays. Um, and then I'm mixing this up because I do have plays in there where my running backs are going to catch the ball. Same with the tight end. Defense, I'm not going to talk about that because I don't need to. But so I created this playbook called TTU Doris Quarterback. Um, Now you're going to notice a lot of mirroring within my playbook. So if I have a backs out, a post, a deep out, a fly, a post, in I formation, I'm going to try to do the same in pro set. I'm going to try to do the same in spread. I'm going to try to do the same in shotgun, the same in two tight end. Now, it's like spread doesn't have a wide receiver post, it's a double post. But if you look at the plays, what you'll notice again is medium, balanced, long. I won't have any plays that have short in them at all. And it's intentional because I want to make sure that I am not allowing Doris to ever throw a short to medium pass. Um, because if he does, he's probably going to incomplete it. Now, again, I know these plays well enough to know that the two primary targets are these two guys. He's tertiary, but you know your plays well because if you don't and you try to do this and you're picking some plays, well, this is the primary right here, then you're gonna defeat the purpose of what you're trying to do. Generally speaking, my rule of thumb is this: is if on a long passing play, anything that says long for depth, I want it to be more than 8 yards average gain. If it's medium, I want it to be more than 5. If it's short, I want it to be more than 4, or 3.5 to 4 is good. You don't want things where you're throwing a lot of INTs. If you have those, get them out of there. Um, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just look across this. And I've already removed some plays, just so you know. There were some things like wide receiver comebacks. You notice that there was not one for I formation. The reason for that is I took it out. because it was underperforming for the metric I just told you. I will probably update the running plays a little bit. I'm throwing a lot of things at the wall in the hope that they stick, because I'm trying to come up with a new playbook. So on the rushing side, I'm going to do a little bit more rushing than what I normally would do. But again, you'll notice the mirroring, right? I can't mirror slams only in I formation, but pro set counter lav sweeps. If you notice, there's a mirror. It makes it much easier for you to do it. Now, for the game after this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to see what worked and what didn't, and I'm going to trim the playbook. So I'm going in with 55 plays. By the next game, I'll probably have 30. Um, and I'll do that again. And my hope is that this will work for Doris, where he'll complete at least 55%, won't throw a lot of interceptions. And I'm going to have to be without Hargrave at least probably until the Iowa State game against Shark. So I think I could get away with it this week. I'll have to hone the playbook the following week because I'm playing a human opponent in Steve, who's actually really good. And I'm going to have to make some changes for that. But UTEP is a CPU, if I remember correctly. But Iowa State is Shark, and I'm going to have to focus in on that. And that's a pretty brutal thing, which I hope I get Hargrave back because Kansas is Van, Texas is Kevin, and they're both really good coaches. So again, I've given up on the playoffs. I had a brief hope of that when I beat West Virginia until I saw Hargrave was hurt, and then all hope of that went out the window when Texas Tech just got crushed by Baylor. Um, so we'll see how this works, but when you run medium to long passing, you kill more about the arm and intelligence than you do about accuracy. Now, accuracy will influence uh, medium to long. So if you have a quarterback who can do it all, it's not a bad idea to do it. Um, the reason why I'm not going all long is I've done a video in the past where I showed you that a good human opponent can defeat that relatively easily. Um, and in the Baylor game, I actually defeated most of his passing attack. It's just when I kept giving the ball up and putting him in a short yardage situation to get into the end zone, I was going to lose that game every day of the week. Um, the I did mention one thing. I forgot to mention this. Sorry. Uh, Under custom playbook, someone asked me why I do flies and posts as opposed to streaks. One of the reasons is flies are predominantly north-south, but streaks are always north-south. And the reason why I don't like the streak over the fly is it's a much easier to find cornerbacks with speed than those with speed and agility. So in theory, a fly has some component of agility for a cornerback to defend against it than a streak does. A streak can just be a straight up north-south um, defensive back, whereas in the fly, because you have the deep end and you have a deep post, um, they have to have a little bit of agility. This guy would have to have a little bit of agility. This guy would have to have agility in order to defend it. And then the same with the post is there's a deep end, there's a short end, a medium end as well, and then there was the post. So at this point, there was at least one cut. Here, there's a cut and a cut. So by going with this, I'm making it to where the opposing coach has to have a cornerback or defensive back that has some agility. Um, a lot of coaches focus just on speed, but that works great if the person is just chucking the ball with streaks or using streaks a lot. And of course, streak is just straight, right? Uh, Speed, you can use speed corners to defeat that nine out of 10 times. But when they start to actually make the receiver do a cut, and again, this route, that's not a strong cut. This is mostly north-south, right? So you could put a speed defensive back on this guy and he's going to have success. But on these two, it's not going to work as well because the cut is more pronounced. Um, so just keep that in the back of your mind if you're trying to defend against a long passing attack. If you notice that they're just running streaks all day, and a lot of people do that, uh, put defensive backs who have speed up against them because that north-south route means there's no cut, and it means that you should be able to defend against it. Now, again, like I said in the last video, you do want to have some agility because agility does determine or influence your ability to pick the ball off. That's the main reason in that case you'd want to have agility. But if they are doing a lot of flies, they're doing a lot of posts, they're doing a lot of deep ins or deep outs, you're going to want to have someone who has agility if you're defending against that. So in this case, TCU, when I looked over the roster, don't have great agility cornerbacks and speed cornerbacks. So I'm hoping that my speed can defeat them. And then again, I chose where I'm putting people based on agility because I want to have the people in the place where if they're making a cut, I have a wide receiver or tight end who has good agility enough to make the cut. So that's it for today. Hopefully you find this video helpful. I know it's very, very specific, but a lot of people have asked me about this, and I think some people ask me because they know the situation I'm in with Texas Tech and the SNCFL. Well, I was having great success with the short to medium passing game with Hargrove. He gets hurt. I don't have a quarterback that can mirror that now. So now I have to go with a long passing game, which is what I'm going to do this game with Doris. Hopefully it works. If it doesn't, then I missed something somewhere, but I'm pretty confident in this because of what I did at Maryland. So if you like this video, let me know. If there's a specific topic you want me to talk about, definitely let me know. Thanks.